are in Surrey, in Effingham, and we've got a partnership of schools based around a secondary and several primaries. We've got teachers from early years through to sixth form. We've got a bit of a challenge ahead, so I'm a bit nervous. Morning, how are you doing? Look, it's lovely to be with you, and I hope you have a really useful morning, a morning where you can think about the youngsters you teach, think about the work you do, so that next week they get just a little bit more from you, a little bit better deal, a little bit more opportunity through the work you offer to them. I called it Making Learning Irresistible, because in the end that is the challenge, isn't it? How can we make learning so that children can't turn away from it? And I think that's part of a learning adventure. That's why that's the other part of the title. I think learning should be adventurous. It can't be adventurous every minute of every day, but youngsters should stop now and again and reflect and think, I wonder where we're going next. I wonder where learning can take me. Most schools, I don't know about yours, but most schools have an aim, something like that, don't they? Where they say, what we're trying to do is develop really good learning. I bet if we got your brochures out, your staff documents, there'll be something in it about inspire, or something about challenge or potential. They all have those words in. There'll be something about the future. There's always something about the future. So I thought we'd start by just having a few minutes on the future. So have a look at what a year 7 wrote for me a little while ago when I was doing some work on the future. I was in a history lesson, and they've been doing timelines, you know, looking backwards at the development of houses, shoes, boats. And I said, you know, why does it all stop this year? We could all, from the past, predict the future a little bit, because shoe patterns come and go, don't they? So have a guess at what's coming next, or how houses might move forward. And they did that, and then this lad wrote this bit, the future. Well, I've been sitting and wondering what the future will be like. It took me quite a long while. When I finished, I realised a lot of the future was already gone. So a lot of the future's in the past. The teacher saw this and she said, have you seen what he's written? I said, yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's really good. She said, no. She said, he's being flip. I said, no, he's not. It's lovely. She said, he is. He's trying to catch us out. No, he's trying to be clever. I'm going to have a word. And some of you got it, haven't you? I thought the point was to try and be clever. And, you know, that's why you come to school and where you go. But it is about the future that I want to spend the first few minutes talking. Have a look at these children. It's just one of those gorgeous pictures. Nobody on that photo is looking at the camera. Everybody's looking at the thing that's making the interest. Look at the pictures on their faces. There's amazement, there's joy, there's wonder, curiosity, delight. And of course, what's causing it is those bubbles. And bubbles are irresistible, aren't they? If I got bubbles out now and started wafting them around, no, you wouldn't be able to turn away from them. There'd be people popping them, splatting them, catching them on the hand, you know, you can catch them. There'd be people watching them land, you know, when they land, they sag a bit. But nobody would go, oh, bubbles, thanks very much, and look the other way. Because they're irresistible. You just can't turn away from them. And in a way, that's what we do want in learning. We want learning that youngsters feel they can't turn away from, that they want to really capture and get hold of. And of course, those youngsters are on the way to being these grown-ups. Not far away from being a grown-up. You know, where will they be? The children you're teaching, where will they be in a few years' time? What experiences will they be having? Because those little ones, they only look little, they're 4 and 5-year-olds. But they aren't many blinks away from being a grown-up. And often when we're teaching children, day by day, we're so busy thinking about what we've got to do in the next 40 minutes. What we're doing in the next 40 minutes is a contribution to what they're going to be as adults. And of course, teenagers often say, we weren't born yesterday, you know. And they're right, aren't they? They weren't born yesterday, but it's not many blinks until they're these sorts of people. In just a few years' time, they could be voters, standing for council, married. They could be jurors. Doesn't it make you think? You know, if in a few years' time, you came up in the dock in court, accused of something, no, you'd be wrongly accused. No, it would be a mistake. No, it would just be one of those things, and it's great to have your day in court to sort it out, but you looked across the courtroom and there in the jury was somebody you taught. Wouldn't that be the moment you thought, I hope I taught good judgment? I hope I taught how to balance an argument. I hope I taught how to listen to detail. I bet that's not the moment you think, I hope that synthetic phonic went in. I hope they got the past participle. I hope they can tell me what an oxbow lake is. That's the moment that you really start to think about some of the skills. These children are growing up into a changing world. And of course, what's driving a lot of this is technology, which is just phenomenal, isn't it? Technology. I just can't believe what it does. Big impact, of course, is the web. I went to a school in Milton Keynes just recently, and the primary children were showing me their timeline of all the great developments, the inventions. And I went round, there were photos, writing, models, pictures. They showed me all this stuff, and I said, where have you put the web? And these 10-year-olds said, oh, we haven't put the web. I said, why not? They said, it's not an invention. I said, it is. I said, it's only been around for about 20 years. You know, it's an amazing invention. They said, no, we thought it had always been here. But what it does for teachers is fascinating, because the first thing it does is challenges our authority. Just like the internet is challenging other professions, it's challenging teaching. In teaching, we used to have the curriculum was all in order. First I'll teach you this, and then I'll teach you that, because I know it, you don't know it. I've got it, you haven't, I've got authority. So I'm going to teach you, and I put it in order. And if we can't do it, we'll go back a bit. And when they ask, when are we going to do, you say, when I'm ready. I shall release this piece of information about learning when I'm ready. Now, they can learn it before you teach it. They're spoiling it. They're getting there before you. It's like Blue Peter ruined things, now it's the web. All right? And of course, what's happening is children are learning things in all sorts of directions all the time, and we're trying to structure it in the good old way we always have. Children are no longer fobbed off in the way they used to be, with the sorts of things we give them in the classroom. We used to give them real problems. They say, why are we having to do this? You know, in Key Stage 3, they get a bit, why are we having to do this? And you say, yes, well, you may not understand now, but this is the sort of thing grown-ups do. And so when you're a grown-up, you'll be glad I'm teaching it. All right? So we give them real problems, you know, things like measure the area of this room, work out how much to carpet it, and that'll be a real problem. They know that if you're going to do that, somebody comes in with a laser gun, waves it round. Within minutes, they have the area. And then they get a thing called a calculator, and another minute later, they give you a thing called a quote. They don't walk around with trundle wheels, squared paper, stickers, scissors. They don't do all that anymore. They do it with technology. Of course, the grown-ups have got the abstracts, the operations, the concepts before they employ the technology. The children are using the technology, and somehow we've got to get the abstracts, the operations, the concepts in within context to make sense of it. But this notion of real problem solving is really, really important. I mean, how many of you have this problem? I go to when you put the petrol in your car, you know, when you put the petrol in, you stand there at the car and you put in, do you stand there and go, if I put 14.1 litres of petrol in my car, costing 111.9 pence per litre, how much change will I get from a £20 note? No, that's a good question. I mean, it's fair enough. Some of you do it because you don't trust the garage. Some of you like problems like that. Most of you have the problem I have, which is when you get to the kiosk, you can't answer the question, pump number. No, it's true. They go, pump number. It's a new form of greeting in England. Right? And you go, it's the red one. Right? Which is not even a number anyway, is it? So, but what we've got is this challenge of technology coming through all this stuff and taking it forward. And you can look at that list, and the change in maturity in our schools is phenomenal. What we expect of little children now in terms of growing up really rapidly is a real area of consideration. You know, this term toxic childhood, where they're pushed into things before they're mature enough to do it. And at the other end, you've got children in sixth forms who a generation ago would have been in work for 2 years, and are they being treated in a more mature, grown-up way than they were a little while ago, because actually they're more worldly wise, they're more physically developed, they're adults in our school setting. How do we balance it all up so that we give them the proper experience that we want to give them? They're the challenges that those bubble blowers are going to face as they grow up and move into adulthood. And I wonder, you know, the children you're teaching, how well you think they're aware of it, how much they're aware of it, how well they cope, and do they realise what's coming towards them? Now I'm going to stop for a minute, give you a chance to take stock, and we take it on from there.
I was sitting next to the senior deputy at Thomas Knivet College, who is our partner school through the Federation, and she and I sat next to each other and said, oh my goodness, next assembly, let's get the bubbles out, let's see what happens, because that's what education should be about. It should be magical, it should be an experience, it should be about excitement.
It's right about the technology thing, you know, because now it's right. They come in and they just use that zapper to measure it, and we're sort of saying, oh no, we mustn't do that, but you've got to teach them to understand it.
Yeah. It's being resilient in the face of sort of changing circumstances. When when children are faced with a set of circumstances they've not come across before, what can they do to solve that problem?
We have a responsibility as teachers to be the best that we can be day in, day out, and unless we are providing the range of those experiences, then we can't expect the children that we teach to be the best that they can be.
So the danger is we're endlessly preparing them for the future and forgetting they've got a present. And the best present you can give them is a lovely childhood. Anybody can do this. You put a big piece of paper up, any age, it really works, and you say right on here what you think you do well. Have a look at this for 6-year-olds. There's 6-year-old children, what they think they do well. See what they write. Well, I can do my reading really well. Me, James, Nicholas and Jason are the best readers on the new reading books. And so you know you're good because you're better than others, but never mind. I can do taekwondo well, clean my fish. I can do well at swimming because I can take my feet off the floor. I do well at cleaning my rabbit and guinea pig mess out myself, and I feed them. They're interesting things, aren't they? Because doing well is about achieving, but it's also about taking responsibility, things that I think I can do. Have a look at the last one. I could do finger knitting really well. That's really lovely, isn't it? Because when children come to school, we say, we want you to do really well in school. Oh, good, when's finger knitting? We don't actually have finger knitting on the curriculum. If on a wet day in January there's a bare lunchtime, we could perhaps fit some in. All right, well, taekwondo? Well, taekwondo, that's a bit dangerous. You know, we don't tend to let... OK, cleaning the fish? Well, we used to have a fish tank, but we did a risk assessment. And you want to do, and you're good at, finger knitting, taekwondo and fish tank, but actually what you'd better do is reading and writing. You're not so good at them. And so from saying we wanted to do really well in our school, we faced a lot of children with the doing the things that they're not good at. And of course schools are for doing the things you're not good at, because then you get good at them. But there has to be a balance, a real balance in it. What about what we don't do so well? Same class, 6-year-olds, have a look at these. They come up from the bottom, look. I have trouble trying to find my cat to put him out at night, because sometimes he's upstairs and sometimes he's in the kitchen. So it's the cat's fault, but never mind. I'm not very good at writing because I don't tune up the lines. And he doesn't tune them up just to prove it. All right? Fascinating when you get to 6 if you can't do it, and you know why you can't do it, and they give you a target to tell you that you've got to do it, but you still can't do it. It's a really difficult thing to do. I don't do so well at catching my rabbit or guinea pig because they're fast running. I can't swim very well because I can't hold my breath long enough. But the last one I just think is lovely. Have a look at this. 6 years old, what do you not do well? I'm not very good at putting wallpaper up on a wall. You have to wonder, don't you, what makes a 6-year-old put that? Maybe the 6-year-old has had the most amazing nursery and infant teacher who says, this home corner, this domestic play area is in a state. Come in your boiler suit, bring a ladder, I'll bring the wallpaper. Maybe they've been doing it. Maybe he did wallpapering, found he wasn't very good, he's only working towards, and later he'll be level 4 wallpaper. You know, maybe that's it. All right? Possibly, more likely, he sat at home with mum and dad, having a meal one evening, and mum and dad are having a conversation. We pretend mum says it to dad. Mum says, this room's in a terrible state. It needs wallpapering in. We'd better get somebody in to do it because you're no good. So dad goes, yes, I agree, because he wants somebody in to do it, doesn't he? Right? If you're the little lad listening to that, pretend it's a little lad, could be a little girl, little lad listening to that, it's really fascinating because he's 6 years old, and for 5 years, everybody he meets says, you're just like your dad, you. Spitting image of your dad used to do that. Oh, chip off the old block. Oh, I remember when your dad did that. Now, if you've had 5 years of that, ever since you can remember, of everybody telling you just like their dad, when your mum announces your dad's useless at wallpapering, you think, cut out the middleman, we'll save time, I'm no good either. All right? Now, it's funny, and you know, I'm only making it up, but it is funny, isn't it? Because you think about it, you know, how many grown-ups in our society go around saying, I'm useless at maths? Ho, 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 we say when we've finished. Oh, I could never do maths. Even very, very good mathematician type people say, I'm not very good at maths. You know, mathematician in the sense of being able to cope, get through. We go, I could never do maths. It's fascinating. I met somebody the other day, she said, I can't sing to save me life. I said, don't be ridiculous. If I get a gun out and say sing, you'll sing. What people mean is they can't sing very well compared with the best. And we've got this really weird thing in our system that we teach children, if you're not the best, you're not very good. You can be nearly brilliant and not very good compared with the brilliant. So how do you get children believing that everything's worth having a go at? Languages, mathematics, swimming, caring for pets, wallpapering, it doesn't matter, let's have a go at it and try. Somehow we've got to help these youngsters make progress as people. At the same time, we're trying to get the best results for them in terms of their capacity to learn and where they're going. They need skills. They need skills for life, for work, for learning, just for growing up. Now, if you've got the business leaders of Britain in the room and said, now tell us what skills children need when they get to 19, and this emphasis on skills keeps coming through, the business leaders call out lots of words. And the top thing they talk about are these sorts of skills. They call them soft skills. Then they say they're hard to learn. So they're now recently started to be called subtle skills. Okay? Teamwork, being part of a team, leading a team. Being determined, adaptable, flexible, able to cope with new situations. Basic things like punctuality and honesty. People who can cooperate, people who can be customer aware. Really important soft skills. And then they say, what we also want is reading, writing, and number. Rarely say speaking and listening. Yeah, it's really important skill to take through. And then you've got these lovely ones that some people say we want ruthless, assertive, competitive, fearless people because it's a global thing, we've got to get in there, punch our weight. And another lot say we want a just and fair world. So we want generosity, tact, we want diplomacy, we want sensitivity. And when you look at that sheet, my goodness me, don't you see it? That's a challenge for teachers, isn't it? It really is, because we could add to this, we could have 5 sheets of this. These are skills that children need by the time they get to 19. Flipping it. We don't do it all, but somehow we've got to help them to learn these skills. And if you get it wrong, we've got a mess. If you get a ruthless, assertive, fearless, competitive nurse, it might not be what you want. I can do more injections per minute than any other nurse in Surrey. I'm going for the all Surrey concrete, you know, you imagine what it would be. I know it hurts, it's all right, you'll get over it. All right? If you get a sensitive, tactful, diplomatic footballer, is it what you want? I've had 3 kicks, would you like a go? So what comes through is that what we've got to teach children is the discernment. The top skill is which of these skills fits where, when. How do we use the right skill in the right context? And therefore, context starts to be really important. How do teachers find context where children can learn all these things in situations that make sense? We're going to stop for playtime. Basically at playtime, you all go out and run on the field, playground. Okay, the grown-ups, Kathy and me, we stay and have a cup of tea. When we've had enough tea, we'll come and fetch you in. It's a reasonable day, so you can have a long playtime.
He's very funny, and I think if you can make teachers laugh and really get them to reflect on their practice at the same time, you're on a winner.
You can see that he's been ahead, and you can see that he would have been a great head. You can imagine the sorts of assemblies that he would have had.
I mean, it's always nice as a teacher to have time to think, but yeah, Mick's very good at, I think, focusing that thinking.
He's very excited about what he was talking about. He's very passionate. You could really see that way he was coming across.
He can speak with authority. He's been a head teacher in 2 different locations, so he's been there and done it. But also the fact that he has a very human quality, and ultimately he wants the best for the children, which is why we're all in education.
I go around a lot of schools, and I go into secondary schools, and the head shows you around, or assistant head, and you go into a classroom and they suddenly point at somebody and they say, see him over there, he's a predicted 5A to C. And I say, oh, has he got a name as well, or is that it, you know? And so you start giving children the label, because they're a currency, aren't they? You know, they can get us as a group, they can help us to get to our targets. If you go in year 7 sometimes, I'm sure it doesn't happen here, but I get introduced to children, they say things like, she's a level 3, year 7. And I always say, oh, no, she's not. They say, yes, she is. And I go, no, she's not. Yes, she is. They say she is because the tests say level 3 in English, level 3 in maths, level 3 in science. And I go, oh, no. They say she's level 3 in maths, level 3 in English, level 3 in science. She's not a level 3 person. Not a level 3. Because what happens, you see, you get level 3 reading. And that's right, isn't it? It suits. Level 3 maths. And of course, then what happens is you start having level 3 conversations. Level 3 life. And guess what happens when you're tested? You come out level 3. See, I was right. And there's this challenge all the time to look at the label and think beyond it. Think about what that means. Not just, oh, we've got to go to there then. Really, really important thing. You go around the cupboards, you get the labels off the jars, the tins, the packets, and then you take them in the classroom. So, fragile, this way up, breakable, highly flammable. Do you know any children that you might describe like that? Do you see what I'm on about? Children who if you put those labels on, you could pick who they are. Children, you know that you like the blue touch paper and stand back, do you know? You might be thinking of the staff room, I don't know. Best before, that says. Best before. Oh, yeah, this lovely concept of best before, isn't it? Because think about it in all sorts of ways. I meet children, they say, I'm no good at maths. And I say, what year are you in? And they say, 6. And I say, oh, you've never been any good at maths. They say, oh, yeah, I was good at it once. I say, oh, well, what about reception? Yeah, you're good at reception. Year 2? Yeah, I was good at maths at reception. Oh, yeah, year 2. What about year 5? No. I said, well, if I turn you around on your back somewhere, you won't be able to see it. It says mathematics, best before, and it'll be whenever you were in year 4, you see. You just went past your best before date. I meet year 10s who say, I'm desperate to stop doing history. And then I meet 65-year-olds going around museums, going around collections, going around national trust places, absolutely fascinated by history. So they didn't go past the best before date, they just thought they did. The labelling thing is massively important. A lot of your children will have a label inside themselves that makes them think they're going to achieve. They believe they're going to achieve. And there'll be other children who wonder whether they're going to achieve, and there'll be other children who think that achieving is something that's probably not for them. How do you get them all believing they can get there? How do you get them as far as they can each?
This is my project about the measures that man can go to prevent and control flooding.
So this is an 11-year-old. This is Connor. But it's trying to talk about the work he's just done over the last little while, and he explains it.
So, as I said, first of all, we had it as homework. Then, once we had all our information, we brought it back to school. So that we basically, first of all, we did a first draft of all of it, so that we could change bits if we needed to. Then we wrote it down in our books, and then we wrote it on this, and we had our pictures that we got, and I've done a diagram of a levee.
This is about a youngster and knowledge, trying to show his knowledge. And there's a big sort of argument always going on. You hear it in politics, you hear it in the media, you hear it in the school system, about is it skills or is it knowledge? People say we're going to a skills-based curriculum. And other people say we believe in knowledge. Well, I think actually, if you only believe in one of them, you've got a problem. You only get understanding through having skills and being able to apply them within the knowledge sector. You only get understanding by having knowledge that gives you the opportunity to work towards skills. You've really got to bring the two things together. What I think you saw in Connor was some real good approaches to knowledge that proper researchers in university research department use. So first of all, the concept is that if we want knowledge to develop, we've got to help the learner see themselves as somebody who's producing it, not simply consuming it. In really good schools, you see children accumulating and producing knowledge that appears in print, in images, in plans, in websites, with photographs, models, body shapes, through music. And that's why the richness of the curriculum is important, because what then children do is build up this perception of themselves as learners in every subject. And every subject becomes a vehicle for communication. We do need skills. Children do need to build a range of skills. They do need to be confident, successful. They do need to be responsible. But they also need that knowledge base, that strength of understanding that comes through study in depth. And a superficial, enjoyable, happy childhood where you never get to take on some challenges is not an adventure. I'll stop again for a minute, give you a chance to talk, and then we'll run on from there, okay?
Christine explains, on the right track, aren't they? They're the ones that are really ready to.
I think it's about them realising that they can still improve and they can still make progress, and giving a sort of you can do attitude, even if wherever their starting point is, it's still fun to learn, it's still fun to move forward.
That's where he's going to take it on to, isn't it? He's going to talk about, if it's about skills, then your level is irrelevant. But until the curriculum, until this whole SATs thing or schools and league tables goes, I don't know how you ever get away from that concept of labelling them, and there's too much pressure, isn't there?
Often we feel constrained by being told that we have to do X number of hours for each subject, and we block our timetables, and we don't necessarily have the freedom to use our imagination, to be trusted as teachers.
I came into sort of the education system right at the start of when the literacy hour and the numeracy hour was being plugged. Which was very prescriptive and very, this is how you do teaching, and these are the ways that you do it, and this is the time that you spend on each subject. And I kind of knew instinctively that wasn't how I felt teaching should be.
Adults may label a child as a national curriculum level 4 in a certain subject, yet when you actually delve into their sort of their lives and their interests, their hobbies, their strengths, you suddenly find out that they could be very, very talented in other areas.
Over the last 10 or 15 years, we've got very, very into the pedagogy is what makes it work, the teaching quality. And you get these people visiting now and again, don't you? You want to sit there and decide whether you're teaching a good lesson, and if you only did 2 more things, it would have been outstanding. All right? Absolutely outstanding. Right? And actually, it is right. The better the teaching, the better people learn. Really right. The skill of the teacher is fundamental. But what we've also realised, relatively late, I think, is that it's not just the teaching that makes the difference. It's the layout of the learning, what you offer the youngster, the curriculum, plus the leadership of the school at every single level, plus the capacity of the youngster to take it on, their disposition, whether they're disposed to learn, whether their family thinks it matters, whether they come to school today in a good mood, ready to take it on, is really important. So it's the leadership, the curriculum, the disposition, and the teaching. And you're part of that. And this, if you haven't seen it, is a really nice thing to look at. A lot of people tell me it's really worthwhile. It's on the web, look, and you get a commentary and the animation builds up. I could do that today, but I think we'll do other things. So you get this commentary. There I am, look, doing it, it's me. Same shirt, same tie, right? It's me then, don't you? But it builds up, and a lot of people have told us that it's a really good staff meeting, talking point, governor session, really good thing for a department to talk through. What are we doing about that bit? How are we making it work together? The curriculum is the entire planned learning experience for children. Of course it's the lessons, but on top of that it's the events, the routines, and what children do outside and beyond school. How do you bring it all together to make it make sense? The Duke of Edinburgh Award is just mentioned in the corridor out there. That's an event in children's life, a cumulative event, but an event. When children take part in the Duke of Edinburgh Award scheme, they're learning to work as a team, they're learning to take on adventure in some sort of way for themselves, whether it's an outdoor adventure or a catering adventure, but they take an adventure. And in doing so, they learn many of the skills that those employers say are really, really important for them when they grow up. But it comes as an event or something they do after school. So then routines are absolutely vital. These 5 minutes here and there. We did a thing in the secondary review. We asked children what their hopes, their dreams, their dreads, their fears were. One of the top dreads that was articulated by children right across the country was changing in front of other people. Now that's only 10 minutes. But it's 10 minutes so many times a week. 10 minutes for 2 PE lessons and 1 swimming adds up to 6 lots of changing. 1 hour a week taking your clothes off and putting them on again. Now that's either a good experience where you learn about yourself, be proud of your own appearance, feeling good, managing your belongings, or it's a bad experience where you feel embarrassed, humiliated and awkward. And if you're embarrassed, humiliated and awkward, it doesn't last for 10 minutes. It lasts for a long while, and it's part of the learning environment of the school. So the curriculum is the lessons and the order of the subjects and the structure of the syllabus, but it's also the overlaying wraparound feeling of the learning that takes place in routines, events, and what youngsters do after school. And the clever schools make use of every single minute as a positive learning experience. If we went to an early years setting and saw a child following a hoop like that, it'd be lovely. Natural, learning through play, all the lovely things. Bounding, unbounded learning, or unbounded learning. Really delightful to see. Bending double, you know, an absolute essential feature of modern learning early on. Because, no, if you do it early on, you'll get better at it. So by the time you get to our age, you'll be brilliant, won't you? Or you've gone past your best before date, took bending double, so you got that. Funny, isn't it? Hammering, really important to do hammering. You go in most early years rooms and you say, oh yes, we do hammering. Well, hammering is a fascinating skill, because I go around modern adult life and I don't see people walking around doing hammering at level 9. What we know is that the point of that is hand-to-eye coordination. It's a way of getting hand-to-eye coordination alongside the fascination of this sharp thing going into this piece of wood. Not all at once, but over time, children need clocks and dragons and straw and silence and letters and eggs and mud. And we know that in doing those sorts of things, we're extending their understanding, extending their experience, extending their awareness of the world. And through that, we can teach things. But, you know, things like pedals and steps. You don't do pedals just so you can pedal. It's about gross motor skill development. Because what we know is that people who have gross and fine motor skill development also find a lot of other things more simple, more easy, more capable. So how do we give children these things? Silence. At what age do you stop needing silence then? You just liked that, didn't you? You just had some. You wondered how long it'd last. Or dark. I went in an early years setting a couple of weeks ago, and the children had this place they could go and sit in the dark. And they knew if they didn't like it, they could let the light in really quickly. But we need these things for a little while to take us into other areas. Now, when you get to 16 and 17 and 18, it's suddenly changed into these words. These are the sorts of things we talk about with older ones. But my argument would be we actually talk about these things with very young ones. We just don't use the words. So you want children to observe, hypothesize, wonder, argue, use conjecture. You want children to define, measure. But early years people do it and they say, let's do the hammering. Let's do the water play. Let's dress up. And one of the things that's happened in our education world, the curriculum over the last little while, is we've become much more clerical and much less practical. So I go around lots and lots and lots of schools, and primary schools, Key Stage 2. You go around, there's words everywhere on everybody's wall. So teachers put up the days of the week, they put up starters, they put up connectives, they put up punctuation marks, they put up number bonds. There's no room for a child's contribution. Now, if one really serious thing is, as a person, I think I've got something to offer, there's a big message about, well, you offer it to let other people see what you've done. But so many rooms now are full of pre-produced or teacher-produced words, powerful words. Punctuation marks is fascinating for me. The idea that you might sit near a semicolon for a year and that'll help you to use it, or you sit near an exclamation mark and every now and again you go, goodness gracious, you know. What happened there is really interesting. You actually won't do it by putting it on the wall. It's okay to have it there as a reference, but surely we want reference from children about what they're achieving. And the really big challenge in every subject right through the secondary sector is to stop the subject just being recording. I'll tell you something, you record it back. I'll tell you some more, you record it back. Then you'll have a big log so you can learn it all and then you can tell whoever's asking. And that's important. But I'll tell you what, if they don't develop those skills, in 10 years' time, will they have exploited university? Will they have exploited employment? Will they have exploited training in the way we want? I'll stop again for a minute, give you a chance to talk.
I mean, if I remember back to my schooling and think about the lessons that I remember the most, it's the ones that were practical, it was the ones where I was investigating, it was the ones where, you know, I was playing about with things, basically.
You know, I love his phrase, make learning irresistible. So make links, make it real. It's all about context, grasping opportunities, and having freedom. And I think for a lot of teachers, they haven't felt they've had freedom.
What I feel is that he's given us the permission to actually think, well, you know, I'm not completely constrained by the national curriculum, and just because a QCA says I need to do this on week 1, you know, day 1, actually that's irrelevant.
What I've tried to do this morning is give you a way of looking at learning, which I hope adds to what you already do. And I've tried to flick through the age ranges, saying there is a universal sort of outlook, some things that take us through wherever we are. But what we have to do is work out ways of explaining it and taking it forward. Just let's have a look at a few pictures to finish. Growing things, which is it? The children or the lettuces? Real purpose, real audience? A scarecrow to scare off the crows? Not for a display in a classroom. Using the grounds as a workplace, geography outside. I was in the classroom when this hatched out. This is having living things in your room. This butterfly emerged from its case, and the children gathered around it. There was total silence. You know, I talked about the importance of silence? Total silence. And when the colour went onto the wings, there was an audible gasp, because these children didn't know how the colour appears on the wing. Being there, looking after creatures. You want children to be responsible, you've got to give them things to be responsible for. Plants, creatures, other people. Looking at this big world. About 3 weeks ago, the moon was absolutely stunning in the mornings at about 9 o'clock. Beautiful, beautiful blue skies and a stunning moon so that you could almost touch the craters. And I was going into schools and I was saying to teachers, have you seen the moon? And they say, yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? That means that all the children coming in probably saw it as well. So did we stop for a minute and talk about it? Or did we say, cool, we've got to get on? Look at this. These children went to Snaefell, to the Isle of Man big mountain, and they climbed up and they're in the mist. And then they get their chess sets out because they play extreme chess. And wherever they go, all over the world, they play chess and they bring their photos back. In 30 years' time, 2 of these will meet up and they say, do you remember when we played extreme chess on Snaefell? We thought we were way up in the clouds, and we were, but it's only 2,000 something feet. But what memories? That's what they'll talk about. So I'm taking you on to this, look, to help me learn. This is what children need to help them learn. They need a course, they need a structure, they need a syllabus, they need a scheme of work. But they actually need these sorts of things. Real purposes, real audiences. They need to gather and articulate knowledge. They need a world view. They need to think they're contributing, making a difference. And bottom of the lot, look, they need to be with adults who like them, who say they like them, who tell them they like them. Because you do actually, don't you? You like the children. And so you have to tell them now and again that, yeah, I really like you. I'm sorry I moan now and again, but it's only because I like you. And I really like you to succeed and do well. And I really like you to achieve. And you know, sometimes you really surprise me with what you can do. You're stunning people. If we only said that to children a lot, wouldn't teenagers have a different look on life sometimes? Often you don't realise how important you are to the children you teach, the children you meet in the corridor, the children you meet on visits and events. And sometimes you think that the job you do is to teach a class or a subject, which is absolutely right. But incidentally, you teach all the children in every school you work in. And I think in England we don't often enough say thank you to the teachers for what they do. It's not my job to say thank you to you, but you do have to, in the schools, keep saying to each other that we are doing a good job, we're working together as a team, we're making it happen. In 20 years' time, the children you teach will look back and remember moments in your classroom, and they'll bring them to life in seconds, and it'll be memorable experiences that you want them to have, that are good, that took them forward, that made a difference to their lives. Teaching's a very special job, and you do a smashing job in helping children to make their way into adulthood in that very, very complicated world. Just keep enjoying it. Thanks very much. All right.